Hi, this is Dave Kettlewell, the host of mastersofharmonica.com, and I want to welcome you to this series of videos which deals with the topic of vibrato. And just quickly, let me show you one form. Or those are just three. But so this grouping goes into great detail on what each of these forms of vibrato are and how to do them, and some exercises so that you can learn them and get good at them. And I think that one thing that I want to mention is that from an academic perspective in music, vibrato is defined as the progressive and rhythmic change of pitch on a note. Where over and over and over again. That's classical true vibrato. However, I want to show you another type of vibrato which kind of sounds almost like the same thing, which is, so the first one was well, watch this. They both sound like a rhythmic change, but the second was actually tremolo. But for this series of videos, we're going to consider vibrato and tremolo both as vibrato. But I thought that you might enjoy knowing that. Now, one question is, why is it that in classical singing, woodwinds, brass, harmonica, that vibrato is used so much, and why is it so important? This idea of a note that varies like that. And I think the answer to the question is that vibrato takes the very smallest fundamental musical entity, the note. It takes the simplest element in music, one note, and it imbibes it and imbues it with a lot of musical values like rhythm, volume change, and artistry. So it takes that one note and makes it into a piece of art. And a lot of times if you read critics of musicians, people that write about other musicians out there, they're going to talk about the quality of their vibrato, and it definitely differentiates the players. So anyway, that's just kind of a nice introduction to the topic. But let's get started now with a quick description of all 5 types of vibrato. The first type of vibrato that we're going to talk about is hand vibrato. And I like this one because it's pretty easy. It's been around for a long time. And it has the characteristic that it does not flat the note at all. So it's used a lot in classical music performance. So I hope you'll pray with me that this goes well. And the reason I do that is about the shape that you use on the harmonica. You take and you cup it, and we're going to take the hands and open and close them very quickly here. There's a pulse, there's a change in the tone color and in the volume, and it is a form of vibrato. So that's number 1. Now, number 2 type of vibrato, and again, there's more detail, lots more detail in the independent videos on each of these forms of vibrato, so you can learn more. Number 2, lip vibrato. This is actually controlling the gate of air through your lips. And it sounds like this. It's very beautiful, and it doesn't tire you. And it's a great form of vibrato, and I really like that one a lot. So that's type number 2. Our next form of vibrato is tongue piston vibrato. And let me demonstrate that for you. tongue piston vibrato is actually a movement of your tongue. It's called tongue piston, which you might think, oh, that means the tongue's going in and out of his mouth. It's really not. The tongue is more rising and falling a little bit, and that creates the variation on the note. And so tongue piston actually, I think, works very, very well in the high register portion of your harmonica and less well in the lower and less well here. I think it's really very, very appropriate in the top 5 holes. But tongue piston is used, and you have a little bit of change in tone, you have a little bit of change in volume. It is a noticeable form of vibrato and well worth knowing. Let's get into abdominal vibrato. Now, abdominal vibrato is controlling the gate of air by your abdomen, and you increase the airflow and decrease the airflow with your abdomen in a rhythmic manner to create the vibrato. This is not an easy one to get really good at because it requires a lot of control both on blows and draws, because of course all these types of vibrato you can do on blows and draws. So let me show you diaphragmatic vibrato. Strictly the diaphragm. Now we get into what I call the big daddy, which is larynx glottis vibrato. Now, this particular form of vibrato is not controlled by the hands, and it's not controlled by the tip of the tongue or the lips or the diaphragm directly, but instead by the larynx glottis area. Ugh, 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 ugh. That is approximately the area that you're going to be working with. That kind of sound too. So what's happening is that the muscles are coming in, closing, and opening up. And this is one, you'll probably recognize this one. So that is larynx glottis vibrato. I do want to mention that we talk about vibrato as independent and distinct types for the purposes of kind of showing you how to do it. But actually, in practice, many times musicians will mix a little bit of one with a little bit of the other. As an example, they'll tail off on a vibrato with a little bit of abdominal, or diaphragmatic. So anyway, I don't want you to think that you're always going to be playing them very strictly this way. But let's go ahead right now and start getting into a little bit more detail and some exercises on really one of the ones that's the most fun and easiest, which is hand vibrato. Well, I had told you early on that you want to go ahead and begin with your hands